If you're a physio, chiro, or just in the health field and you struggle to know what to say when pitching patients, treatment packages, or plans, then I made this video just for you. This is the exact sequence I taught my massage therapy client who went on to sell a $1,500 package just 30 minutes later. The best thing about it is it doesn't feel pushy or salesy, and in just 3 easy steps, I'll show you how to get a patient to say yes to a treatment plan or to a package. But before we begin, my name's Phil. I'm a health sales and business architect, and I've been selling health products and services for the last decade. My health clients do about 200K a year each as health professionals, and I want to help you do the same. Now let's get into the video. First, let's talk about the most common mistake health pros make when they sell packages or treatment plans. They will usually finish the assessment, provide some treatment, and then head straight into recommendations of best care. Now this isn't necessarily wrong, and it does work for some people, but it's not my preferred method of selling because it doesn't leave room for exploration. So instead of pitching a plan right after the assessment, what we want to focus on is to understand the type of plan they're looking for before we pitch them anything, because this will leave us room to offer something even beyond what we thought they needed based off their preferences. And because they've told you what they want, then nothing you pitch is going to come as a surprise to them. Now that we have an understanding of our goal, let's go into the 3 steps. Step 1, confirm intent. After you go through your assessment and you've been able to deliver value, do not go straight into pitching the plan. What you need to do is to confirm their intent. Now, why we want to do this is to get clarity on exactly what type of help they're looking for. Because even though you might have the best evidence-based plan for them, they might not be looking for that at all. It's also the reason why so many patients drop off after 3 or 4 sessions, because they were never there for a long-term plan. They just wanted to get out of pain. How do we do this? Easy. You just ask them. You can ask any of these questions and it'll give you similar answers. For example, here's something that I've used in a lot of my consults. How urgent is this to you? You ask this question to gauge how much care they want and also whether they'd be suitable for something like a package or a condensed treatment plan. And I'll explain what that is in a second. Number 2, are you looking for a short-term pain relief plan or something long-term so you can manage on your own? This question's great because it immediately gives you an idea of what kind of plan to pitch, what kind of patient they're going to be, and it makes them think, oh wait, which do I want? Number 3, and this is personally my favorite one, is what do you need from me? I ask this question because it gets them to tell you what they want, and then you just got to come up with something that matches their needs or expectations. If they say, well, I don't need anything, then there's really not that much to say, but in a clinic or on a treatment call, this usually never happens. What usually happens is they'll tell you an idea of what they're looking for, and from there, you need to be creative and suggest to them what they need to get there, which brings me on to step 2, creativity. Now, this could be the easiest or the hardest part of the process, depending on how well you know your craft. Whatever the patient says, you need to be able to create at least 2 different treatment plans on the spot with a justification so they have the option to choose. Some people find this very hard. I personally find it pretty easy because you should know your treatment or product well enough that you can fit it into your needs. For example, if I have a patient with an acute shoulder injury and they say, I need something urgent because I'm due to fly out in 2 weeks, then immediately I have 2 urgent care plans in my head with a clear rationale. So I might say something like, okay, since this is something very urgent, I've got 2 potential plans for you and you just let me know what you think. First plan, we'll see you 3 times a week over the next 2 weeks, and in every session, we'll review your progress, we'll do some hands-on work for pain relief, and then we'll progress your exercises aggressively depending on your symptoms. The main reason we check in so often is if you heal fast enough, then we can push you more and you're more likely to recover in time. Now, the second option is twice a week over the next 2 weeks. In those sessions, we'll do a little less hands-on work because we don't have the time, and we'll focus on the exercise rehab instead. Now, this option's better if you just can't come in as often. Now, the main difference between the 2 is we might be able to squeeze a little bit more recovery with the first option. What do you think? And I'll just leave it there because if they are after something truly urgent, then there's no reason why either of those plans are going to be no. If they do say no, then they really weren't after something that urgent at all. Now, let's do another example. Let's say I ask the same patient, what do you need from me? And they say, well, I'm not really sure what's appropriate, so I'll need your guidance. In this case, I now have an opportunity to link your goal, which you should have gotten in the assessment, to 2 potential plans that I'll create. So here's what I might say. Okay, well, every patient's different depending on their goals. Now, based on what you said about returning to an active lifestyle like tennis, then there's 2 potential plans that work really well. The first is a higher care option for athletes who will see us twice a week in the first 3 weeks, followed by once a week for the following 4 to 6 weeks or until they return to full tennis function. And we review this much in the beginning because we want to lay the right foundations for their recovery, followed by the more sports-specific stuff later on. And altogether, it might take anywhere from 9 to 12 weeks for a full long-term long-term recovery. The second option is for everyday recreational athletes who will see us twice a week in the first 2 weeks, followed by once a week until they go back to tennis with full function. Now, we don't review these guys as much because they're not playing as much and they also aren't as urgent with their recovery compared to an athlete. Altogether, it's still about 9 to 12 weeks, but it might be a little bit slower depending on how committed this patient is to the rehab. Out of those two options, which one sounds better for you? So what I want you to take away from this part of the video is you should always get a gauge of what they want or even get them to tell you what they want before you pitch them something. This way, you know whatever you pitch is on the right track of what they're after and they're less likely to say no, or even worse, they'll say yes and then never turn up. Step 3, turn your insights into offers. So you'll get to a point in your career where you'll see enough patterns and you'll understand why an offer exists and how it makes sense. Once that happens, you formalize it, and now you have something to present to patients without thinking about it too much. So let me give you an example. Using an acute shoulder patient, if you were to sell a rehab program, you would know over time that there are people who are only after pain-free management plus return to basic to life activities. So you would time frame this on a program like 4 weeks. Then you name it something appropriate like return to life program, and you'd specifically outline what the outcomes are like pain-free movement and return to life activities like driving and carrying things by your side. Then you have people who want to return to something more complex like returning to tennis after a rotator cuff repair, and this is at least a year of proper rehab. Or maybe you've got somebody that's really chronic and is sick of it, so you would put the same time frame at 1 year, and you might call this something like complete rehabilitation program with the outcomes and features outlined. So the goal is eventually to create an offer that matches their expectations. So after they tell you what they want, you can go straight into telling them what's included in each program and the goal so that they have something to pick and you don't have to come up with something on the spot. And a lot of times, the name itself is really, really important because it gives the patient an idea of what they're buying, but also it helps them buy into the treatment more. For example, if I created a shoulder rehab program based around the landmine press, you could name it 2 things. You could call it the landmine press rehab program, which would only appeal to people who would know and want to use the landmine press in their rehab, or you could call it the return to overhead shoulder rehab program. And you don't change a thing, but purely by calling it that, now all people who have difficulty going overhead will gravitate toward the shoulder program and they're more likely to get better results because they buy into it based off the name itself. The difference is one group is only focused on the landmine version, whereas the other group is focused on the outcome and the landmine just becomes something they have to do to get to their outcome. So to recap, if you want to get better at selling your rehab plans and packages, you can do this by remembering these 3 steps. Number 1, always get clarity on exactly what they want. And if they don't know what they want, ask ballpark questions until they give you an idea. Number 2, be creative. Whatever they tell you they need from you, give them the optionality with pros and cons of the plan. This will match their expectations with your plans and increase your conversion rate. And lastly, after you've sold enough of these, formalize it properly on paper so you can just show it to the right patient and name it appropriately so there is value in that itself. Now, quick thing before you go, if you want to work together or you want to learn more in any one of my books, then just head to the description box below. Thanks for watching. Bye.